Welcome to the Gone Traveling podcast. We're switching it up this time around, and we are talking about the Adidas NextGen EuroLeague. We just had our finals in Athens, and we had a wonderful show. And now we're figured, you know what? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it with a guy who knows a thing or two about the NextGen EuroLeague, just like myself. A guy who's just as excited about it all, and it's wonderful to always get a chance to see him, almost always get a chance to see him, and that is Rafael Hernandez. Rafa, as we all know, social media manager at Overtime over here in Europa. Rafa, thanks for jumping on. How you feeling?
Thank you for
You have
having
the
me.
next gen EuroLeague blues.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I mean, it's been what a tournament we just had. What a weekend we just had. We saw a little bit of everything. We saw upsets. We saw great, great players. We saw players who maybe didn't show up as we expected them to show up. But it's just part of this great tournament that we follow every single year. And thank you for having me.
Let's do a brief introduction. So I said social media manager at Overtime. Maybe just give people an idea who you are, and why they should know who you are.
Yeah. So my name is Rafa. I run Overtime Europe. We are the little bro of the big overtime account, the big sports media account in the US. Well, basically what we do is we follow prospects, but we are basically more of storytellers. We are storytellers. I like to call us our storytellers. We go around Europe telling stories about players. We follow them from their very young age until they make it to the NBA or until they make it to the pros. And just in this particular case, the Adidas Next Gen EuroLeague has been one or the place to be for for these stories and where we find out who's next up in the professional scene. So it's been awesome, and yeah, if you guys haven't seen any of our content, go ahead and follow us. We are on Instagram and TikTok. We are on YouTube Shorts as well, and some of our stuff it gets even pushed into Twitter, so or Twitter or X now. So
Give them your
yeah.
handles. Give them your handles.
So at Overtime EUR, so for Overtime EUR for Overtime Europe, and Overtime ESP as well. But basically every international kind of Overtime you see, we have Overtime France, we have Overtime Brazil. We try to cover as much prospects as we can all over the world. And my handle is Overtime Rafa, so easy to find.
Overtime Rafa with an F-A, Rafa. Um,
Yes.
so how many years have you been doing next gen?
This was my seventh year now. So I've done about I made the count. This was my 24th tournament
Okay.
and my sixth final. So it is really cool. It is really cool to be here every year. Every new story, it's really cool to be here. So we had a little stop. It should have been more because we had a little stop, and I wasn't really going to, or sometimes I don't get to go to all the tournaments every season. But I'm definitely there for finals, and finals are the best. So so yeah, really cool.
So you're in Spain, and you're actually from Venezuela. Maybe just talk about how you discovered the next gen EuroLeague tournament.
So when Overtime Europe launched, we knew that we needed to find the best place for to find these prospects, or to find the best place to or the best competition that we could find here in Europe. And of course, the next gen EuroLeague came up. It was a no-brainer to work with the EuroLeague, to be able to come tell these stories, to come watch these kids, be able to tell them, be able to give them a platform uh, to 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 just basically get their names out there. So yeah, it was quick. It was quick. I started working for Overtime in October, and in October 2019, and December 2019 was already my first tournament, which it was awesome. I'll give you a fun fact. I was ready to drop this during the week, but the MVP of that 2019 December tournament, if you can think about it, I'll give you a minute to think about it. But it was in
Where was it
Valencia.
real quick?
It was in
Valencia?
Valencia. Yes.
Mm, 2019. No, I'm not gonna be able to do it so quick.
So it was a player that also was featured in the men's Final Four this past weekend. So he played for one of the four teams, and he's was the rising star of this year's EuroLeague. So I'll give you another chance to guess him.
Uh, just give it to me, Rafa. Sorry, man.
John Montero. John
Montero.
Montero was the
Yeah,
yes,
of
sir.
course. Valencia. Yeah, with Gran Canaria.
John Claudio Montero, who with the Gran Canaria team, who also featured
Ruben
another EuroLeague
Lopez.
player with yes, Ruben Lopez and Khalifa Diop.
Yeah, Khalifa Diop
So
was on that team too.
so
Yeah,
it was that trio there. They had a great team actually, but it was that trio that made it work for them. They beat Barca in the group stage, and they beat
yeah.
Unicaja Malaga, who featured Yannick and Sosa
Yeah,
in the
and
final.
The Barca team didn't they have the Spanish guy. Oh God.
They had Michael Caicedo on their team,
Yeah, no,
and
but
they
they had
also I mean
sorry,
they had a lot of players in there.
Mexican.
Oh, Gael Bonilla,
Gaia
Gael Bonilla.
Bonilla. Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
Oh
yes,
man.
Gael was one
And
of
actually
the
now
top
that you say
prospects.
that, it all kind of like I was thinking 2019 December. That was actually 2020, which then of course is when COVID hit and we didn't have a chance to see
Yes,
the finals. And of course,
exactly,
Partizan, that was the only time they've won one of these qualifiers and
exactly,
weren't able
exactly.
to go. Yeah. Oh man, of course.
Yeah, that was
If
actually
I
my
had
second
put
tournament.
if I had maybe put 2019 together and that it was 2020, because I know it was really disappointing not to give Montero and that whole group a chance to see, because they would have definitely made the whole thing fun.
That year, it was probably the most talented we've ever had of generations in Europe because this also featured the Real Madrid team with all these amazing players. We had Tristan Vukcevic, we had Juan Nunez, we had Mateo Españolo, Urban Klasvar was there. That was probably one of the most talented Real Madrid teams and the most talented field in general because in the finals, we would have run into some teams that were absolutely incredible.
Yeah. What I love about doing this is that you think about all of the players that you've run into over the course of your lifetime, of your business experience, and it's just fantastic. Um, let's go to this competition in particular, the finals. As you said, you've been doing this now for a couple of years. Seeing the progression of the game, how excited were you that the championship game of this was played at the Telekom Center, aka OAKA?
It was awesome. From the moment we stepped in and we saw the kids' smiles, I think Barca shared on social media the kids walking into the locker room and then walking into the arena. Like that is something that is so cool. That was so cool. I know that fans weren't there specifically for them. And not even probably not even 5% of the fans were there for them. Even though we did feature a team that later played, so we're Real Madrid, so I know their fan base was did support them during the game. But just the feeling of being there, the loud chants, the kids looking up at the stands when the chants were going off, you could feel the energy in there, and I know the kids really appreciated it. And then you also got to see kids maybe um, perform really well, and you actually got to see what kids were made about. Some of them, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot to perform in this stage, huge arena, a lot of pressure. So yeah, it was really cool to see.
What were your impressions of the game's performance? Not storyline of who won and how the game went. We can kind of get to that later, but giving the basketball world a taste of this level of basketball.
So I think it is no, as I was saying, it was there was a lot of energy in there. So I think the kids were nervous to start. The first 5 minutes, we saw a lot of air balls. We did see air balls during the rest of the game, but we did see a lot of air balls in the big first few minutes. A lot of quick decisions, maybe poor decisions for some of the kids. But I think it is normal based on the context that we were at that moment. But then the level picked up. The level picked up for sure. We saw strategy by the Real Madrid coach. We saw strategy. We saw responses from the Barca coach and their players. And I think it was a really high level. By the time we got to the fourth quarter, that was really high level basketball we were seeing there from two teams that are U18, and they knew each other a lot. So it was more of a chess match for sure. And especially during the end of the game, with it being a tight game. And I think the team who won is who executed better for sure.
Yeah, Barcelona, team that Tim Long and I had been talking about how long, all tournament, how they had struggled with turnovers, were actually able to handle the ball a bit better. Since we just finished the final Sunday night, and okay, that's a couple of days ago, but Barcelona beat Real Madrid, as we know, 85-77, first championship since 2016, so decade, it's a long time. What's the biggest thing you remember about the championship game?
Uh, I if I gotta give a name or just a player, it's Joaquin Bunte. He was just crazy, and I remember being in the around the third quarter. I was like, he's not in the game. Why is he not in the game? I was like, they're taking him time for him to check back in. Like, what's going on? I was like, is he injured? Did he feel something during the game? Was he maybe not following instructions? And then he checked back in, and it was just incredible. It was just incredible. Hitting threes, being a presence, creating plays for themselves, like for the team, for his teammates, just grabbing the ball, being a playmaker. It was for me, it was the highlight of the tournament. And of course, how could I forget Nikola Kusturica, who had a great game. I know we missed. It is sad we couldn't see more of him during the tournament, but the little minutes we had of him, especially in that second game and then this final game, just proved how good he is for sure.
So 20 points, 7 of 12 shooting, 10 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds, 2 assists. You know, you kind of hit me up, hey, is he coming? Because obviously he was injured, and he actually injured the other ankle in those 5 minutes of the game too. We all knew him, 2009 Serbian was MVP under 16, and we also saw him star in Bologna. But what did you think about his performance? And let's say in terms of selling him as maybe the number one player in the 2000 born generation in Europe.
I believe he checked all the boxes. For the little time we saw him, he checked all the boxes. Especially on that in that final game where everybody was nervous. He came up, hit threes, drove to the basket, and then considering his context, he was injured. He was injured, like he was also dealing with a really annoying injury. So it's hard. Like you would expect him to go to the basket with that injury. You would expect him to fight for rebounds. You would expect him to go to the offensive board, run through screens, and he was doing all of that. He was not scared of anyone, especially going against a team that I know he probably held a grudge to, for sure, because of how the season played out. But he was just incredible. He was running through screens, putting his body on the line. That is something we highlighted on our post. And I think he made a really good case that he is the leading prospect of this generation.
Thoughts about Barcelona finally breaking through. You're in Spain, maybe you have a good idea about the club and, not winning this event since 2016. I mean, think about how different the world was 10 years ago. How much relief do you maybe have a sense of this organization having after, waiting so long, having so many great players come through the system, winning Spanish U16 championships, winning under 18 championships, but not winning this one. Also 2022, 2021, losing in the championship game also to Real Madrid. Your thoughts about maybe the relief from that organization?
So it is no secret that these are one of the biggest clubs in Europe. Both of them, they are made to win. They are expected to win every year. So I can only imagine the amount of pressure management and coaches had in order to perform. Even the players had, knowing that the amount of time they spent without winning this tournament. They have won locally, so it is not like they have bad seasons. And actually, not winning this tournament shouldn't be a bad season, but I know there's pressure in there. So it was definitely a huge relief for them to win this finally, especially seeing their biggest rivals, Real Madrid, taking home trophies several times this past few years, especially with epic finals. And then probably them feeling that they had a generation that were similarly talented, or they were playing about the same way. They just got unlucky during these games. It is no secret that the next gen finals are finals. They call every single game a final. You have to show up for 4 games. You can't slack any game because you can get knocked down by point differential. You can get knocked down by a lot of different factors. So, and that is one thing that Barcelona was consistently running into this past 3 or 4 years, or especially 10 years actually. So
Not just Barcelona,
it's
everybody.
it's been yes, actually everybody, of course, of course,
Yeah.
of course, of course, no doubt, no doubt. Madrid, especially that last few years, has been huge in these single games, these single finals. That's why it's probably given the ability to bring home these tournaments. But yeah, Barca finally broke through. So congratulations to them for sure.
We've talked about so much, but I want to give you a chance to maybe talk about a guy or two from Barcelona who maybe impressed you, either in Bologna or Athens or both. maybe besides Bumcha Bumcha and Kusturica.
So I definitely want to talk about Mohamed Dabone. He is one of our most special featured athletes on our accounts. It is not, it is really just because of his talent. He's so talented. His athleticism is through the roof. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen such great athleticism, feel for the game, his finisher on the basket. There are things he needs to polish, of course, like anybody his age and anybody in this process of getting better at the game. But it's just impressive. It's just impressive and incredible. Everything he does. I think we'd get the best tournament, the best game we had of him probably in this tournament that I can remember at least was that best game against 3SSB. I think we saw the very best of Mohamed Dabone on that game, just being athletic and then also matching up against these American guys who are already super physical. They can do, most of them can already probably do what he does, but he managed to give them an answer. He hit threes. He was having floaters all around the basket, and of course bringing that athleticism. And then the second person I wanna shout out is Neil Posa.
Okay.
Neil Posa, the starting guard for the Barca team, who's not scared of anyone. He's not scared of anyone. He will pick you up full court, and he'll also make big plays. I remember hitting big shots at the end of that fourth quarter against Real Madrid in the final game, and he didn't back down at all. He didn't back down at all. So shout out to Neil. I know Giannis. There's a fun video that Giannis shouted him out. I don't know if you've seen it, but on social media, the EuroLeague, the Barca kids ran into Giannis and he shouted out Mohamed Dabone and he shouted out Neil Posa. So that was pretty cool.
He had a huge jumper in the next possession, had the jump ball situation with Alonso, I think it was, right there in the fourth quarter, big time. For those who listen to the broadcast on EuroLeague TV, they know I threw plenty of parades towards Mohamed Keita. I know he's not an NBA prospect, but what do you think about what he did? I wasn't, I really wasn't aware of the offensive capabilities. He really showed that on that end what he could do.
Mohamed was really, really impressive at the end of not the end, this whole tournament, but especially in the fourth quarter. He was really, really impressive. And he had big shots. I remember that reverse layup he had. He also went to the basket a lot. He's like their glue guy. I think a good way to put him is their glue guy because he will play defense for you, and he will probably do all the dirty work, grab rebounds, run the court, and then whenever he has the ball, he can get you a bucket. He can definitely go to the basket. He can also shoot as well. I've seen him shoot. I don't remember if he actually made a three in this game, but whenever the team needed him, he was on the court. And I think coach really, really understands that and put him on the court in these situations. And he answered. He answered the call.
I said he's more offensive minded and more offensive skilled. Mohamed Traore from all those Real Madrid championship years. A glue guy that does defense. Again, not as much offensive, but and that's why I really wanted to throw his praise out. Barcelona's opponent in the final, of course, Real Madrid. The big storyline was they beat Barcelona under 18, under 22 finals in the previous 3 weeks. But this was a team that, really wasn't fun to watch last season. They didn't have the firepower, they didn't have the big guns that they had in 2 years ago. But I really think they did a good job in pushing the guys who are coming back. So that's Kaiser, Bjelic, Frolov, Greenwald, and then gave them more weapons. You look at Amosov, you look at Kutloy, Alonso, Diarra, and of course, 2010 born Reese Robinson. We didn't see him in Athens because he was back home winning the U16 championship a day before the championship game. But I wanted to ask your thoughts about how Real Madrid kind of moved/developed from what they were doing last season to what they were doing this season. Feel free to talk about a couple of guys you want to talk or what.
So first thing I want to do is give a huge shout out to Coach Javi for getting them to buy into the idea that he had. And I know he's been getting a lot of pressure in years past because of the team, maybe the way the team played. But this was an incredible team. He built an incredible team, an incredible system. Everybody bought into it, and that also speaks a lot about the kids. That speaks a lot about the players. They all bought into the system. We definitely had uh, players that stood out the most. Like you have Egor Amosov and of course Fabian Kaiser, but everybody played well. Like he made everybody on that team play well, and that is a huge compliment to him and a huge compliment definitely to the Real Madrid management because they were playing really well. Everybody was understood their role and they played really well. And then yeah, let's shout out someone. Fabian Kaiser, all tournament team. What a great tournament. He was shooting threes, he was hitting fadeaways,
Dishing
passing
it
the
out.
ball, making plays. He
Yep.
was getting the ball to the basket. That was incredible for Fabian. Shout out to him. It was a real treat to watch for sure, and really excited for that German team for sure. That 2009 German team, and about players coming up from Real Madrid. Fabian will of course be back, and he will be part of that 2009 generation. But there are 2010 players, like you mentioned. Rich Robinson is really cool. Rich Robinson is really cool. We got to see glimpses of him at Dubai, in Dubai. No, not Dubai, sorry, in Abu Dhabi.
In Abu Dhabi.
And I wasn't there, but I was watching every game, and he was just impressive. I can't wait to see him next season and just having that control over the game. We also have Tony Garma potentially coming up as well. Great shooter, Croatian great shooter, and that team could be really, really incredible. That would be probably the team to beat next season for sure for Real Madrid.
Yeah, I was thrilled with the development that Fabian Kaiser had after last season, coming into sort of a leadership role in his first season away in Germany and his first season in Spain, everything else, but he really took a major step forward. We got the championship game we all thought would happen and probably hoped would happen. Let's talk about some of the other teams and players we saw in Athens. The whole world was hoping to see Nathan Suleiman. Of course, you and I as well with INSEP. Nons
It's
didn't
okay.
release him. They had game one of the playoffs, Pro B playoffs on Sunday. 2 points, 5 rebounds, and a block in 16 minutes. It is what it is. But we got to see Messi, Yangala, Yale, Mastio Renier. They both really stepped up, which they may not have had a chance to if Suleiman had been there. Obviously, INSEP, won this thing 2 years in a row, 2 years, twice. Your thoughts about the, French National Academy and they're showing with a 2-1 record and really just losing to the buzzsaw that was Real Madrid.
Yeah, so another year that we have a really impressive, physically gifted team from PFEB, but their biggest standout was probably one of their least physical players, like Yael. He was, but there is no way to put him. He was just incredible. He was incredible. He was hitting threes. He was making plays. I especially liked how he got his team involved. He got so many assists. He got so many big plays, extra passes, and whenever he got the ball, he could make shots. And then, of course, this got him a place in the all tournament team. So, and congratulations to him, of course. And then, if I want to shout out somebody else, of course, it has to be Messi. Messi had a great last game. He was really physical in there. He's a really physical player, but he is incredible. He has a incredible touch around the basket. He could go off for offensive rebounds. He can go off for defensive rebounds. He also has this hook that he can hit around the basket, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I guess the next things for him that you want him to do is probably expand his range a little more. But that is definitely something that I'm sure he's working on and he will have in the near future. But other than that, that PFEB team was again as solid as it can be, really, really solid. They of course ran into this bulldozer that was Real Madrid with everything clicking. So it was hard. It was hard for them. I understand. They lost to the team that could have ended up winning the tournament. So there's definitely nothing to be ashamed about in there. And yeah, they did get a highlight, which was of course Yael being on the all tournament five.
Yeah, and it was a team that was very young. They had a few 2010s, a couple of important 2009s, giving obviously those players an important experience looking ahead to next season. Shaw Gears came into the tournament as reigning champions. A couple of players back, obviously the two big of them were Captain Maxime Brnovich and Ignas Stombergas. What do you think about this team's performance? They did have a couple of 2009 born guys, and those were players that showed on the European stage that they can perform at a high level. Getting a spot at the World Cup, U17 World Cup this summer.
I think one of the things that this team had this season was, of course, they suffered from this generational change, which is something that we see every year at the Adidas NextGen EuroLeague. Teams aren't good forever in these tournaments. They are your good generation comes up, and then I'm not saying the next generation is bad, but they have another generation, different generation, plays different. So It is hard to adjust for sure, and I think that is probably the issue that Zalgiris had this season. We had kids, they had players that were really young coming up, and then the players that were there were already been there for so long that people knew how to play them.
Mhm.
So we did see great moments. We had that Maxime dunk all over the Americans on the first game. We had Stombergas also had a great games and be super aggressive as well. But I think they did suffer from that generational change that happened is super normal in this tournament. So I am sure they'll be back next season. There were really good standouts like Kukta for sure, and he'll be back next season. So a year older, stronger, bigger, with more stuff, with more to bring to his game. So it'll be super exciting. And yeah, they did get the win on the last game against Red Star, which was fun. And yeah, it's just part of the game. It's part of the game, part of the tournament. That's how it works. Next season, you can go back at it.
I don't want to talk about take a deep dive into all eight teams, but maybe a thing or two that kind of stood out to you, maybe about the trio of Cedevita, Zvezda, and Panathinaikos.
Well, we can start with Panathinaikos. We had the runner-up or one of the highlights of the tournament with Felipe Quiñones coming. Felipe Quiñones, the Puerto Rican that was featured there. He had two incredible games. 25 plus points in both of them. I thought he was a lock at the all tournament team. It is true that the last game he did struggle a lot, but he also same thing that happened to PFEB. He ran into the bulldozer that was Real Madrid. So they focused a lot of their efforts on him, and I'm sure also as well, it was his third day playing. He was playing heavy minutes. He was taking a lot of shots. So I am sure it also took a toll on his stamina and his physical ability. But other than that, those two games were incredible. Those two games were great, especially the second game that he basically felt like he took over and he got them that win because he willed them to that win for sure. So Felipe, I want to shout out Felipe from Panathinaikos. From Cedevita is
First ever finals victory for Panathinaikos.
exactly. Congratulations to them. I want to shout out, of course, in the Cedevita Olympia team, we got to shout out the French big man, Cameron Huindo. Total showman. What a star he is. He can get you the best dunk ever, but he can also shoot from the outside. He did force a little shot, especially in that final game. I think it was a very emotional game for him playing against his old teammates at PFEB, but he still put up numbers. So shout out to him, and of course his second and third options, which were Max Siperdi and Bine Pregel. I am happy for them. I'm happy they got the chance to see this. Max had great games. I think that first game was really good. I can't remember his stat line exactly, but I think that first game was pretty good. Um, but yeah, Cameron from that team was the highlight. And then moving on to Red Star, I want to shout out my guy Alexei Nedeljkovic, who struggled to shoot in the Belgrade qualifier. We saw how that basically limited his ability to maybe get to the basket at points. People were sagging off of him, but in this tournament that wasn't the case. He was hitting threes. I remember having quarters with hitting two or three threes at a time, so that really opened up the floor for him. We got to see probably a different side of Alexei as well. So I wanted to highlight him for sure.
The game between Cedevita and Panathinaikos also had the dynamic that Quinones was on the Puerto Rico team that beat France in the under 17 World Cup, and on that team was Cameron Window, and obviously he knew about it and was really pissed about that game. Cameron was, so that was kind of fun. I remember actually kind of early on he was guarding Quinones, and Quinones passed away, and he was like, "What? You don't want to try go at me?" So Cameron really was having fun. The other team in the
There was a
finals.
lot.
Yeah, the
Yes,
other
there
team
was
in
a
the
lot of
finals
trash
was
talk.
was the next gen team 3SSB, which is grouping players from the Adidas 3SSB shoe circuit. Two of those players were actually from Overtime Elite, Kennard Calendar, and give me a hand.
The rising star of the tournament
Yeah,
was also
Blaze.
Blaze Johnson, sir.
Blaze Johnson. They also had Jalen Davis and Sierra Anderson in 2011 born, so 3 years younger. RJ Evans. Maybe biggest takeaways from the 3SSB team, and how do you think they stacked up and performed? Obviously this is a team that had three practices together. and really didn't know how to play a European game.
So coming into previous seasons, we of course had overtime elite playing in previous seasons. So I got a chance to being a part of the company. I got a chance to be a little inside of their prep. And one of the first things that stood out for me, and then stood out for all of us that were watching, is how many times they traveled or committed violations that were really uh were really I guess you would it would sound silly to us, but it was normal for them because they're just not used to playing like this. And I gotta give a huge shout out to the 3SSB team, from management up to the coaching staff. I can't remember more than 5, 10 travel calls in all the tournament, which is impressive for these kids. Especially, I guess some of them also haven't had international experience either, so they were kind of thrown into this as well with 3 practices. But I know Coach Dogush did a great job, and I know they have more players involved in FIBA basketball in that coaching staff, so they did a great job in there. And then based on their performance, I mean, their performance could have been better, to be honest. I mean, they of course could have went to the championship game and won the whole thing, but they beat the reigning champs in the first game, went up to high numbers. They dropped over 100 points on that first game. Then the second game, they were down big, and then came back in the fourth quarter. And then on the final game, they took Barcelona 3.5 quarters. They threw Barcelona 3.5 quarters, almost 4 quarters, all the way there. And then Barca, of course, with their dominance, took over. But it was a really good game. And that third game was probably one of the best games we had this season at NextGen, that 3SSB versus Barcelona. So if nobody has watched it, you should go watch it. That was pretty fun. And when I had to highlight players, I had to highlight Nasir Anderson. I had to highlight Nasir Anderson, not only because of what he did in the game. Since with what we work, we tell stories. Nasir was awesome off the court as well. He was with Olympiacos fans. He was having fun at the Final Four. We took him to Acropolis, and he was taking everything in, asking questions. So that is something you really want to see from these kids. And Nasir being both the star, but also one of the best players and the leader of this team. It was really great to see how he embraced this whole experience here in Europe. So shout out to Nasir, and then of course shout out to Blaise Johnson, one of the youngest players in the tournament. He got the Rising Star, um, OTE player. So it was really cool to see him, and it was almost emotional. I got messages from people at OTE that were emotional for him winning this recognition. So shout out to Blaise as well.
I know we talked a lot, we talked a while, and really until now it's kind of just been the finals. But I want to ask your opinion, maybe let's say about the whole regular season of the next gen. We had events in Ulm, Abu Dhabi, Bologna, Belgrade. Ulm, we had Cedevita knock off Mega. Abu Dhabi event, of course, was canceled after about 1.5 days due to the conflict in the region. Barcelona then were dominated in Bologna. INSEP with Soliman took the title in Belgrade. I know you only follow the games online for a couple of those, but maybe some of the biggest memories for you this season. Let's take the regular season and talk about that.
Sure. So starting in Ulm, I think one of the biggest stories was not having Mega make the final. A powerhouse like Mega not making the final, but it also meant we had a big surprise, which was the Cedevita team. So Cedevita took down Mega on that game, and I think that was the biggest shock for sure, or that was the start of a great season for sure. And then Cedevita, of course, holding on to the pressure in that final games against Red Farm Ulm. I guess Teo Milicic and that crew that was really applying that pressure. They were the home team, but Cedevita held on and went to the final. That was probably the first highlight of the tournament of the year for me there. And then if I want to move on to Abu Dhabi, I want to definitely shout out those minutes we saw of Riz Robinson. We were talking on the phone. So me and Dave, people probably know this, but me and David talk a lot before these tournaments, and I'm excited to see this kid. I'm excited to see this kid. And then I was excited to see Riz, and then Riz had just a great few minutes until they unfortunately had to get canceled. And if we move on to Bologna, of course, Bologna, we had that Barcelona explosion, dominance from beginning to end. I do want to shout out the Baskonia team. I was excited. I was excited about Baskonia. I think they probably needed to add one or two more players to be competitive, but that Baskonia team was awesome. But from Stefan Joksimovic to Pedro Souza to Mate Gacesvili, the bigs, Duom, they were just awesome. And I wish we would have seen them at the final four. I think they would have made a big impact in the final four or in the final eight. But it is what it is. We'll have to see them in another year. If we move on to Belgrade, I think, of course, the biggest story in Belgrade was Nathan Soliman. Dang, I was disappointed to not have Nathan Soliman in this final event.
All of us,
I
I
think
guess all of us.
a lot of people who, yes, a lot of people who follow this tournament, were really, really disappointed to not have Nathan. I think maybe the story would have been told differently. I'm not sure the final would have been different, but we would have had a lot more drama because he would have went in there and definitely went in there and made a mess, made a mess in a good way. So really sad we missed him, but it is what it is. So yeah, I highlighted one thing of every tournament, and I'm excited for next season.
Okay, this season we saw the start of the NextGen EuroLeague Instagram page, NextGen EuroLeague. Go check out the channel, which gave us a lot more highlights on social media, which is something that we've all been pushing for. We also got more comments on the YouTube feed, which is something I administered. In Athens, as me as the lead writer, we had I was doing color commentary for the first time, and then we also had a little couch session, which you did with some of the social media influencers. And then, as we talked about before, we had the championship game on the big stage at the T Center before the EuroLeague championship game. What do you think about how the event is being pushed forward in a media perspective?
I love it. I think the more eyes we get on this tournament, the more attention we can give the kids, and the bigger platform we can give the kids. At the end of the day, I think we're all working towards getting these kids' names out there and getting recognition, the recognition they deserve. There are players who have been in this tournament that didn't get the recognition they deserve until way later, and I think we're working really well here to be able to give them the recognition from the very beginning. So I think there's something that we got to keep approaching. Every year, I see more and more filmers and videographers and writers and scouts, and that is a great news from the for the tournament and for the kids as well. So I believe anybody who's seen this that wants to go out there, cover, write a story, post an Instagram story, post on YouTube, of course with permission, but but you should definitely try to pursue that. The more attention we give this tournament, the better for all parties involved because these kids work really hard every year, and it is their future as well. And so then the more attention we can give them, the better for sure.
I mean, and I think we also at this point, it's not just the kids, but it's also the clubs, the franchises that work really, really hard to develop these kids, knowing that they are also the future of their clubs as well. Um, Without putting you on the spot, if you say, it's going really well, but any areas you think that your league or the organization, et cetera, can kind of maybe think about as far as expanding it moving forward?
I believe the fact that we created a Instagram account is already a great start. So I think we should definitely keep pushing that route. The more presence there is on social media, so I think the early should really start keep focusing on having presence of the tournament in social media in all the ways possible. Of course, everything should be accessible in any way. It should be easy for people to follow the tournament. It should be easy for people to see a highlight and then be like, "Oh my God, this game's going on. I want to go see it." It should be easy for them to make that connection from seeing the 5 second, 10-second clip to being able to watch the game and tune in. So I think that is probably the next step. The next step we need to do, especially after these finals. And yeah, I'm moving forward. I think that the more eyes we can get in there, the better. And right now, I think the most amount of eyes. Well, I see it every day on my work on my job is on social media. So the more we can get out there on social media, the better.
For someone who might be wanting to get into it, because as you said, there's more and more sort of on the filming side of it, and that's something that obviously you've been doing for many years, and also have seen sort of an army of people come along. What would you maybe give as a tip or two for someone wanting to do it on, give somebody some of your experience so that they don't have to make the mistakes or that they can already take step forward that they don't, that you've already kind of gone through?
So you should definitely, for somebody who's just getting started, you should definitely identify who the important people are in a way to be able to communicate with them and be like, hey, I want to come do this. I want to be able to do this. And if you want to start from a slower level, you should definitely, whoever's reading this, go out to your local park, go out to your local team. If they compete in this tournament, even better, and start filming, start creating content for these kids because people really deserve it. There are stories out there that haven't been told, So if you want to get yourself out there in the map first, go find those stories in your local area that haven't been told, and you will make it here. You will make it here for sure. There is, I have no doubt about it. Go out to your local park, go out to your local club, find the closest club that live near you that plays in this tournament, and tell stories. Tell stories. Film, grab highlights, post those highlights. Of course, everything with permission, but grab those highlights, and then help these kids create a platform. Create a platform for yourself, of course, and then slowly but surely you will find these opportunities, and then the moment you find out, you'll be there filming as well.
As someone who writes stories, it's a little bit different. Maybe just a tip or whatnot for somebody on how to know that something's a good story to be told in a video format.
So of course, this is all trial and error. I've done a lot of stories that go anywhere. I've done a lot of stories that I didn't think were going to go anywhere and went somewhere.
Like the
I've done
dance.
stories that exactly. I've done stories that I expected to do well and did well. I think what you first need to do is start telling them. Start telling them until you find out what works for you. When we go over, we scrutinize all of our content that we post. We see what worked, what didn't work, and we try to tell if something doesn't work, we try to give it a different spin. We go a different route, or we just try to keep pushing it, or we move away if we have to. But if my biggest tip or my biggest advice for this is definitely do as much as you can. Do as much as you can because you will start figuring out what works.
So you and I start getting into, next gen withdraw, probably in the next few days or weeks, whatever. Of course, we have a full summer of national team competitions. But maybe and we know it's, at the very late, or at the very earliest, maybe sometime in November. 2 years ago, we had the first tournament back in Istanbul in November. This past season, we didn't start the whole thing until end of January or beginning of February. I can't even remember. It seems like so far, so long ago. But what are you looking forward to the 26-27 season right now? I know the last season just ended, but what do you have
Yes.
your eyes, set on already?
So there are two things that will happen this summer that will make it very exciting ahead of next season. We of course will see the 2009s move on to being like the second year U18 players. So there will be like the on the spotlight. You'll have like your Fabian Kaisers on the spotlight. You'll have your Nathan Solimans on the spotlight. You'll have your Mathis Mahop who couldn't be there also in the spotlight. So you have all these players. This 2000, you'll have Nicola Kusturica on the spotlight as well. So that is one thing that will happen. And the next thing is this new wave of players we'll start discovering over the summer in these national tournaments. We have the U16, we have the U18, we'll have the U17 World Cup. So we will start discovering all these players that will come and make a big story ahead of next season. And I will start, for example, Nicola Kusturica was the MVP of the U16 tournament. People will probably argue that they knew him from way before, but most of the people started finding out about him after that tournament or when he had that breakout season, and then he just went on to have an incredible season. So that is a player, and we'll have player or multiple players have that whole journey this season that Nicola just had, and hopefully with them being crowned champions at the end the European champions at the end of the season, and we'll be there. We'll be
You
there
will
to
be
we'll be
there.
there to tell that story. Yes, sir.
Yes.
We'll be there.
Just, Rafa and I have seen plenty of these tournaments. It's always wonderful to see your smiling face there. It's always wonderful to you watch the game differently because you're watching it through your screen. I'm kind of watching it through a different set of eyes and a different set of
Yes.
tasks and everything else. And so it's always valuable to get your input. To kind of close, the thing you love most about the Adidas Next Gen EuroLeague.
I love to see players flourish into professional players or flourish into just next level players, having kids come in, maybe having a weird season or having a season full of injuries or having a season where their coach is not listening to them or they're not having enough minutes and then having them come in check in for the first time and then just going crazy. And then you'll see these kids move on and have incredible careers, like how we had Gian Montero, with that looping back all the way to the beginning, like we had Gian Montero had do that.
Yeah.
So it is one of the most exciting things every season is like who's gonna be next? Who are we gonna be talking about? Who's gonna be our John Montero? Who are we gonna be talking about in a podcast 7 years from now? And be like, do you remember that day that he was there? Or do you remember that tournament that he was there and I didn't really know much about him? And then he took over for 4 games and then he was having an okay season, whatever, whatever. And then he came in and then now he was on the Final Four roster and basically led one of the most incredible comebacks in EuroLeague playoffs history and just at a small age of 22 years old. So yeah, that is what gets me the most excited about for sure.
Yeah, just seeing the amazing level of talent, even though they're still, many people would say so young, but one of the things what's wonderful about these European clubs is that there's the ability to push their players. Meaning if a player is ready to, if the club feels that the player is ready to play in a Euro Cup team, Cameron Hoendal, you look at or a EuroLeague team, you look at Sayan Keita or Nikola Kosturica, you look at a guy like Gunnar Greenwald, that they have that ability, they have that chance, that opportunity, which will only push their development that much quicker. And that's one of the things that I think is I don't know if it's undervalued because I think all the NBA and everybody else understands that, but it's something that the U.S. basketball circuit scene really doesn't have, and it's one of the things that I really love about the game. And this is just kind of this under 18 age group is such a fantastic barometer of seeing one step below real professional basketball, and it's fantastic to see how they can just shine, and it's untainted, kind of like college basketball used to be, let's say, and so Rafa, tell everybody how they can find you on social media, etc.
So my personal social media is Overtime Rafa, but you should all go follow Overtime Europe and Overtime en Español and then Overtime France and Overtime Brazil. And we cover the tournament in there. Every prospect we have at least posted once this season in there. So shout out to everyone. And those are my socials. Yes.
All right, Rafa, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. I know we probably won't see each other for a couple of months, but we will definitely talk over the next couple of months. It's been a pleasure, as always, during the season, watching all these events, talking to you about them, and thanks for jumping on here and giving another person as point of view on how much this tournament, this great event, this great competition means to somebody who loves the game as much as I do, and as much as probably a lot of people who are going to watch this do.
Uh, Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for having me. I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody who organizes the Adidas NextGen EuroLeague. Shout out to Rock, shout out to Pep, shout out to Mark, shout out to Alberto, shout out to
Oscar.
Andrea, who couldn't be there. Shout out to Oscar. Shout out to everybody who's always there, who are as passionate as us about the tournament and for making it happen. And thank you to everybody, to all the filmmakers, to everybody who makes videos about the tournament, to all the scouts, to all the X accounts that post videos. Every eye we can get on this tournament is great because it is the best U18 tournament in Europe. And yeah, thank you all for having me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the invitation. And yeah, go follow Overtime for sure.
And we'll see you next season.